Hello! Today I'm in my studio where I've been working on the never-ending cleanup. And one of the things that I unearthed was this little pouch, and it's filled with these little painted papers that have been carefully cut into really rather random blob-sized shapes. Now fortunately, one of the shapes has been finished, so I actually know what I plan to do with them. And now I'm going to use some of my painted papers to turn my little blobs into cute little birds to give them beaks and wings. I always keep a selection of painted papers kicking around, usually things that I'm not crazy about that work perfectly when you cut them up into small shapes. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out a triangle shape. I'm just cutting it out freehand. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I'll glue the two pieces together, and then I'll glue it inside the bird just so that it stays in place until everything's sewn together. Once it's all sewn together, the glue doesn't need to be too strong because it'll be sewn on. And then after I make the beak, I'm going to basically do the same process with the wings. I'll cut out both wings at the same time, but I'm going to glue the paper, fold the paper over and glue it together, and then I'll fold it in half again and cut both the wings at the same time. And again, I'm just freehanding it. It's just going to be a basic teardrop shape. It's a cute shape for a wing, and it doesn't really matter what size it is. And then before I attach the wings to the body, I'm going to poke holes through the wings and the body. And now ideally I would have done them both at the same time so that the wings are both in about the same place. And I'm going to attach the wing to the body with a small brad. And now a brad is a small pin that has a split back so that you can open up the back, and this lets the wings move around so that you can position them wherever you like. And I'm going to use the same pin tool after I've attached the wings to my bird. I'm going to use the same pin tool. First of all, I'm going to pin the two parts of the bird together at the bottom, and I'm poking holes all the way around to make it easier to sew through the paper. And I just need to make sure that the holes that I poke go through both pieces of paper, that it's not just going through one. And I'm not going to worry about it being perfect because I don't really think that things always need to be precise and exact. This is a wonky, scrappy bird, and if the two sides don't match exactly, that's perfectly okay. So I'll go all the way around, and I will make sure when I get to the beak, I'll make sure that I poke a hole just above the beak so that I can be sure that there's a stitch in the beak to hold it in place so that it's not going to fall out. I'm going to go all the way around till I get back to the bottom, and then I'm going to use a large-eyed needle, and you can use whatever you have, and I'm going to use some embroidery floss. So this is a 6-stranded embroidery floss, and this one is a fun multicolor pattern. And I'm going to use all 6 strands. Now you can use, like I said, you can use whatever you like. The only thing that you need to watch out for is that you can put your string all the way through your sewing needle, and that your sewing needle will comfortably go through the paper, and that's where those little holes come in handy. Now I'm tucking the loose end of the string in the middle of the bird, and I'm going to hold on to the end as I start to sew, and I'm going to sew around and around and around, and this stitch is called a whip stitch, I believe. And now if you want to do some other stitch, you can just go in and out and do a running stitch, or you can do a blanket stitch if you like, but I like the way that this one looks around the edge of the bird. And I'm going to go all the way around. So the clip at the bottom serves two purposes. It holds the bird together. It also reminds me to not sew all the way around and sew the bottom up before I stuff the bird and give it some internal packing. And now you're going to laugh when you find out what I used to stuff the bird. So I used toilet paper, 2 or 3 sheets of toilet paper. I remember when I made the first one, which was a few years ago, and it makes me laugh because I think about last year and would I have used toilet paper? Can you imagine this time last year? So April 2020, the toilet paper situation. Would you possibly have used toilet paper for a craft project at that time? It just makes me laugh. And now this part is important. When you get to the beak, make sure that you take a stitch through the beak and through the body so that the beak is secured well to your bird and it's not going to fall off. I'm going to go all the way around till I get back to the bottom. So here I am. I just got to my toilet paper there. I tuck one piece towards the back and one piece towards the front of the bird, and a third piece to fill out the middle there. And then now I'm going to finish sewing up the bottom part of the bird. In this part, I'm just going to sew directly. My needle's strong enough to go through the paper, but you can always use your pin tool again. And if you don't have a pin tool like this, you can use a thumbtack or a push pin or a safety pin or something like that to poke the holes in the paper before you start sewing. And now once I've sewed up the whole thing, I'm going to take a few loops to secure the end of the thread, and then I'm going to bury this end of the thread inside the bird as well, so that you can't see it. Now this is a little bit fiddly because I've sewn it up so well that it's hard to get my needle into the middle of the bird, but there you go, I managed to do it. And I'm just going to pull it out somewhere else, and I'm going to snip off the excess. This little bird is not going to get a lot of wear and tear. I make sure I secure my needle, and I'm giving my little bird some eyes. Probably would have been easier to do that before I stuffed it. And here are some of my other little birds that I've already made. Now I've got a few more blobs to go, so I'm going to finish making those birds, and then I'll show you where I'm going to hang them. Well, I think they look really cute in my window here, hanging from my pom-pom garland that I brought back from Peru. The colors really go together. The only thing is, you can only really see the birds at night. You can't see them during the day.